I'm Amanda Jensen, and I work at the IT department in the Teaching and Learning Services division, working with the professional development and ed tech adoption. And I'm technically a project lead, and I run pilots and do consultations as well as support. All right. So, scaffolding outcomes. Brightspace is continuing to evolve and develop, and we are excited. And over the past year, we've been exploring the options available. One of them is scaffolding learning outcomes. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what the learning outcomes tool is, um, how it captures scaffolding, which is incremental use of objectives or assignments towards an end result, and then also discuss how to learn more about this tool. It
Mhm.
is not currently available in Brightspace, and I want to reiterate that it is something that is coming. Um, so the screen captures here are from the options available. We are hoping that it will be able to do a pilot in full form sometime next year, uh, and be able to look at both learning outcomes. And one of the reasons we want to understand learning outcomes is to be able to achieve and understand measurement of it. Because just putting it in there, you can just type that in a syllabus. It's the idea of what can you do with it and how can you get technology fully developed to make your job in reporting out and understanding where your students are at better. So the first step is at your course level. If you teach in your syllabus, most likely you have a listing of anywhere from one, and I've seen maybe as many as 10 learning outcomes for a course. Um, and when you do your course design, most likely you have some assignments or some way to evaluate whether the students have achieved that outcome. The functionality within Brightspace is you would set up that learning outcome, but you would be able to link it to assignments and rubrics. So you give the student a writing paper, an assignment to write a paper, and you give them an 8 out of 10. And if it's linked to your learning outcome of being able to, let's say you're teaching an ethics course and they have to critically evaluate a modern dilemma. And so the grade on that particular assignment is an 8 out of 10. That level learning outcome, when it's linked to that assignment in the background, you'll be able to get the analysis on that learning outcome later, course wide, throughout all the students on your course, and be able to understand who's meeting those learning outcomes. At the midterm of the semester, you can say, oh, there are some things that I might need to tweak going forward because this learning outcome the students are not assessing well here. There are some limited availability with this in your system. It's a lot of work to set it up because it's in a transition point. It's being converted from a tool called competencies, and I have it marked as old legacy tool. That's the one that's going away, and it's being replaced by the learning outcomes tool. It will eventually integrate not only with the assignments and the rubrics, but it will also be able to integrate with the portfolio, quizzes, even specifically at one quiz question. You can link one quiz question to a piece of your learning outcome. And we'll go over how it will be scaffolded in a few minutes. So one piece of it, and then within the original assignments and rubrics. Where you would find this is when you go into an assignment. Over to the left, you have the assignment that you've created, and to the right, you have a tool option. And that tool option comes up when you scroll down. Currently available is just the rubrics. And so it's affiliated with rubric visibility. And you can make it available to the students or not. So the learning outcomes are not necessarily available to the students for them to meter their progress. It's your measurement tool. And then at the bottom piece of it, some screens say learning outcomes, some screens say competencies. Again, it's that switchover where you can map it to the achievement level. So you say, okay, if you get an 80 more or better, you're considered a master on this learning outcome. You can set that level of expectation. This is where you would identify that, or you can manually do it within each assignment right now as it relates only to rubrics. That's a current functionality. Where any questions so far? This is kind of it's not fully there yet in our system, so I may not be 100% clear. So ask questions. I'm going to take a minute now and release a poll in the system. And then the idea is scaffolding learning outcomes. I realize that that slide did not show. It is, you have your course level outcomes, but then you have department level learning outcomes, and then you have the requirements for graduation in your department. And so the idea of it building, it can scaffolding. Say at the course level, you have, I was using ethics as the option, that you are describing, can they articulate a current event's ethical dilemma? And perhaps that's the course level or the assignment level objective. If you get to the full philosophy department, the philosophy department may have the objective or outcome that students are able to assess current events in light of philosophical principles. And so that course mapping, that curriculum mapping, that outcomes driven is part of that. All right. So there are 3 of you out of 11 respondents that are aware of department college level. And those are things not everybody knows. And that's okay, but it will help in learning this tool if you understand how that works. So how does the course level work? So say you teach Animal Science 302, and this is direct from their mapping, is the 302 course has an outcome that they want, which is they use primary literature to support an argument. And then they apply the knowledge of the organization and structure of scientific literature to journal articles. And they have the connection with the assignment for week 7, hits the first objective, the final assignment goes to the second objective in that course. And Animal Science 407 is another one. They have the identical objectives, but there's a higher level of expectations. Where to go? All right. And so the week 3 assignment in 407 hits the same learning objective. And the final assignment also hits the same objective. Right now at the course level, those objectives are separated out and you can't get a summary of all of the courses. But this is one of the things where we're going. This is why you would scaffold it, is you would take your program learning objectives to connect them across the courses. Now, there are various ways to do this, and some of the images show there's hierarchical, there's straight progression, you have Bloom's taxonomy, and then you have kind of this scaffolded but woven way to achieve different types of objectives. So being aware as this gets set up, you need to be aware of how those outcomes are. And what you want to do is it takes the course level assessments, and then you therefore connect them up to the program level. So you have this tiered perspective. It's currently in test through D2L, not released. And again, it's being converted from competencies. So if you started exploring now tools in your admin area of your courses, you'll see competencies. Learning outcomes is going to be replacing that and build in this more dynamic functionality of being able to have the tiered approach. Now, this is where the frosting of the cake is, okay? You can create these reports. It takes setup, but you can do it. And you can set up a view to say CLO is class learning outcome. Class learning outcome 1, you have the demo student, the first student, hits it at the exemplary level. Then you have test student 901, and they're only developing this learning outcome. But you can evaluate where your students are at. So I also want to explain that the University of Michigan uses D2L, and they are currently, they're part of the D2L pilot, and they are fully functioning with this scaffolding approach. And so they've built it out, and I'm seeking communication with them to work together to be able to have this functionality. So now what we're looking at is that if you were to do something as broad as the mastery of scientific knowledge, you would look at perspectives like assessing scientific knowledge. You would look at their use of scientific knowledge, and you would look at their construction of scientific knowledge. And so this is the program level outcome. And then you have, going further down the chain, you might have a course level outcome of use scientific. And then for particular assignments, you might have the course, the absolute discrimination of, are they using primary literature to support that argument? And that's how the scaffolding would work. And this is an example from animal science. They have fully scaffolded program level outcomes. It's not in the D2L system because, again, that functionality isn't there yet. And what they identify is that you have the assignments from 302 and 407 towards one, and the assignments from 302 and 407 on the other. And so therefore, when you want to look at the use of scientific knowledge learning outcome or the mastery level, you would see the information from these assignments directly connected. Those are some more learning outcomes. So this is something that is an iterative process. So we're building this into our system. If you wish to consider starting these kind of things, you have to be patient with yourself. One, does your department already have clearly defined learning outcomes? And do they map out to your courses? And then do they map out to your assignments? And I always say, when you're implementing new ed tech, you want to be incremental in it. Start with either one learning outcome or one course at a time and slowly build those pieces in. And it might take a year or two to get that structure there. But my understanding is, on the campus, every 2 years, you have the option to go through an internal evaluation of your learning outcomes. And being able to produce a report within the system rather than having to go and gather and collate all the data is the hope for this type of a tool. I also say, be kind to you. There are moments in my life where I cannot learn a new ed tech tool. But then there are other times where I'm ready to go. It takes a different level of being able to make mistakes, rolling with the punches, that learning a new tool might create. And just so be aware of that as you're thinking about it. So this is a D2L feature. It is not a requirement. It is optional. It is internal only. You may decide to use it for external needs, but it will not be external in any kind of way. to do this, it would be a program level. So someone in your department would likely be identified to work towards this goal, and different ways you can use it. Again, ATL does the internal assessments with you. That's a process. This is one of the potential uses for that you could get the information from multiple courses, multiple professors over multiple years if it is set up well. And then many programs have program-specific accreditation where you need reports, and some of this data could be collated for that, as well as for your Niche reporting that is every 10 years, I think. So these are ways we're looking to have people who are using Brightspace, using these tools. These are things that could be really helpful when it comes time to that. All right, it's time for one more poll, and then it is also time for more questions and answers as you have them. So you've learned a little about it. The poll is asking if you think you might want to use it. And again, it's kind of a course level, is a little intensive setup right now, but it may be available as early as next year and may not. And to get further information and to be connected with it, you're going to submit a ticket. And if you weren't with me at the very opening, the idea of the ticketing system helps us to stay consistent with where we're getting information, track its progress, and track your needs. Plus, if somebody's out for a last minute item, the information is in the system for another team member to be able to pick it up. You would submit a ticket here. You could also find that information on the ITS website, as well as the teaching and learning services. All right, it looks like 4 of you are very interested in that tool. So if you want to submit a ticket, let us know. In the ticket, let us know when you would be available for training on that or for information to connect. I believe your fall schedules are reasonably starting at this point, so you know if you're on campus Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And what you might want for your training needs as we go forward, and to keep you in the loop. Other thoughts, questions? There's probably about 15 different background updates that happen every month in the system, and what they are and how they roll, and how they implicate are only, are limited. You see a lot of the new changes with the consistencies between, they recently updated all that over the last year, the discussion boards, the assignments, and the quizzes to all have the same look and feel and flow of information as you, the professor, set those up for your students. Now, keep in mind, if you copy an old course that didn't have that in its use, you may see a little variances during the copy process. It might also be a neat time to just refresh your course and do a few things in that regard. We do have tools. Lumi, Lumi, is a digital, what we call an authoring tool, where you can create your own content. It is free if you download the app to your computer. The online version is not free, but if you do it, you can do something like create a picture and have spots on it where if a student press, they can get the information they need. You could have a fill in the blank paragraph if you want to test them on vocabulary. If you're a foreign language, put in the right foreign language word in the paragraph to complete the sentences. That's a ed tech tool that's relatively new. Of course, there's all sorts of AI opportunities that are around. Very welcome. I hope you get to enjoy the rest of your day. I hope the platform is working well for you all. We will see you in the next event. Have a good day.